Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Job Hunter podcast. I am still your host, Tim French, fortunately or not. Today it's lights, camera, action as we sit down to discuss what it's like to be an independent filmmaker in the UK. I managed to catch up with two of the UK's premier filmmakers to discuss what you need to do to get into the profession, the fundamentals of good filmmaking, and how to jump 30 feet in the air holding a £300,000 cinema camera. So if you could grab your ticket, find your seat, recording is encouraged, sit back, relax, and let's roll the episode. Fades away, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Ross Welch from Perspective Studios and Jack Tompkins from Ben & Jack Studio. Ross, let's start off by finding a little bit more about you. What exactly is Perspective Studios?
Wow, that's good. I feel like I should have been expecting this question because I don't know why, but that's put me well on the spot. What is it? What is your business? Tell me what it is. Justify yourself. We are, in essence, just a production company. So we create video content and photography content and just general digital content, I guess, for a number of businesses all over the world. And we get to work on some amazing shoots. But we effectively create the content that you see on your social media pages.
Jack, how would you say your business differs to Perspective Studios?
Oh, it's a tough question right there. I haven't worked with Ross in a long time. I think he's got this lovely new studio. It's a team full of staff, lots of people. I don't know. We're I think in awe of what Ross is doing. But no, we're Ben & Jack Studio. We're a production company based in Maidenhead, run by myself, my incredible business partner and director of photography, Ben Marlowe. We do a lot of documentary, short form, sports, fashion, music. So kind of sitting just below that sort of high end commercial crew. We kind of come in with two of us and tend to bring a whole load of gear and kind of make the best project we can with a lean, mean production crew.
And if we could do a bit of a name drop, have you got any noticeable brands that you've been working with recently?
Who have we done recently this month? Who have we done? We've done Virgin Active. We've done the BBC earlier this year. We've just finished off a big rugby documentary, which I've been desperate to talk about for a year, but I still can't talk about it at the end of the month, really sadly, which is coming out later this month. But lots of, I don't know, it's probably the same for you, Ross. You work with lots of cool people. There's the big brands, there's the small brands, and it's the people. It doesn't matter what organisation they are or what they're doing.
Yeah, mate, I completely agree. You're totally right. And I actually, I explain this to a lot of people. I'm sure we'll dive into this. I also have another company, which is an academy, which I train up other filmmakers to create stable businesses and things. More so like the business side of actually what it takes to be a filmmaker and do what me and Jack are doing effectively. But yeah, I always say, it's not necessarily about the big names. It's actually all the people along the way, it's all the small companies. Yes, we do work for your blue chip clients, the globally known brands, and Jack and I have had the pleasure of working on many of those projects with each other, which is absolutely awesome. So I can vouch that Jack is your man for filming.
Thank you, Ross. I'll pay you for that later. How much was it for that? That plug? I'll get the invoice in.
But yeah, I think that it really is. It is about like all the smaller businesses and how you can make a difference. And I'm sure if there's any creatives watching this or listening to this, it is just about creating really cool content, or at least content that you think is cool and that you hope that the client agrees with. But of course, clients with bigger budgets does mean that you can do some slightly cooler things and you do get to travel the world and various things like that. So it's a fun way of doing it.
And obviously you're quite well established filmmakers now, but obviously everyone has to start somewhere. What would you say was your first big break, or how did you get into the filmmaking industry? I mean, each of you got very interesting stories. I kind of know a little bit already, but it'd be great if we could hear a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So I will just summarize mine quite briefly because it can be a very long one. So I used to be a professional skier. I got sponsored and got to travel the world skiing. And that's actually how Jack and I met, because Jack was also a skier. So we go back a very long way, actually. And the snow sports world is a very small industry, actually. And especially with what we were doing, it's very niche within freestyle skiing. Long story short, I got injured quite a lot. I don't know if that's because I wasn't any good or maybe I just whatever. I was in hospital a lot. And then I started filmmaking for the fun and passion of it. Went on to make a couple of ski films because, of course, all of my friends skied. They went to various film festivals over the world. And then on the back of that, just started to develop into some kind of career. And as Jack said earlier, we've recently moved into a studio and we hire, we employ a team of people, etc. as well. So I'm going to loosely say I fell into it.
Is that a terrible pun? Because I love terrible puns on my podcast.
Yeah, I guess I really didn't. When I look back on it, I wanted this as a job. Like I wanted to do something that, hey, I didn't know about filmmaking when I was skiing and wasn't really interested in it, but hey, it kind of seems cool now and I want to give it a go. And if I can make some money, cool. And if I can't, then guess what? Doesn't matter. I'm going to go and do something else and I'll find something else I'm good at. So that was with me, but actually it's so cool being here with Jack because I haven't seen Jack in a while. The last project we worked on obviously would have been last year now, more than likely. And perhaps that Riot Squad thing. It's just super cool. Jack and I cross paths a lot over the years and we go back some way. So I think it's awesome how we're both doing.
I think back to the good old days. I was trying to remember how I just remember Ross being a very big deal at Hemel when I was still learning to snowplow and shout. Like I'd all see Ross do a trick and I'd be the one shouting at him. I think one time I shouted 1-2 times. We started to have a little chat. But so it's very intertwined. It's been a good. It's come up 5, 6. I forget to think. I'm getting old. I forget.
So Jack used to film me when I was a skier. So, and ironically, obviously, I used to look up to Jack. I feel like this is just a bit of a bromance thing, this podcast. But I used to look up to Jack, especially when I started filming. Jack gave me so much advice and really did help me like get to where I was, like on like the creative aspects of it as well and understanding. And Jack and I will often have like chats just to see how things that we're doing in each other's businesses that might work for the other one and help each other out. So that's really, really cool. I skied for like 7 years or so, Jack. So, we're going back like 10 years, I reckon, since back in the day.
It's interesting you say that you two having a bromance. I'm absolutely in awe because I know both of you individually, and actually I know Ross because of Jack, and I've known Jack for years because we went to university together. So it's weird, like you said, how small this little bubble is. And other projects I do outside of podcasting, I work with Ross on various things, and it's interesting how well kind of knitted together this community is, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I think also as well. I'd be actually really interested to find out, Jack, like, how did you get into it? Because I've only ever known you as a filmer.
Really? Oh, how did I get into it? I'm trying to think. It's a similar. It's probably the same. Everyone in this industry seems to have a very similar story of having a hobby that they loved and they started filming it, and it kind of rolls on. And that was for me. I fell in love with skiing. Luckily, got to film with Ross a lot, and then I was at university at Loughborough with Tim, where there was lots of opportunities. And it's a snowball effect, really, isn't it? Excuse the pun there, Tim. But you just find a hobby you love. You want to get better and better, and the opportunities come. All of a sudden, someone's saying, "Oh, can you make me a video?" You do it. The opportunities roll on, and like you say, before you know it, you're doing it full time somehow. Looking back, I'm wondering how you got there. But it's a cool career that you can't think. It's when you talk to future filmmakers, it's the effort you put in. It's a career that you can forge for yourself and forge the path that you want to do, regardless of what route you take in that.
But is that a little bit daunting as well, because there isn't such a clear vision to your profession, if that makes sense? You haven't got a natural progression of being a manager and whatever. More an instance of whatever path you take and however far you push it, you just got to wait and see, really. But there is those opportunities out there.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. From my point of view, totally. And I think like something that people forget is that everyone starts in the same position. Like even if they're, $1 billion company or whatever, everyone has started, every business has started from nothing and built up. And I think that's obviously amazing. And definitely I see this a lot. Like I was probably on 2 calls today with people who were very much the same thing. Like, what do I need to do? And it's like, well, I can kind of telling people isn't so much the thing, it's actually just them actioning it. And because it is a snowball effect, like Jack said, it just kind of happens. But if you're willing to put in that work and you're willing to try and just, not live life on the edge, because it's not much of a gamble, but you just gotta just go with what is enjoyable. And yeah, like Jack says, all of a sudden you get someone turn around to you and say, hey, can you make me a video? And you think, okay, yeah, £50, and then before you know it, you're charging the next person £100. And then, again, that spirals and snowballs as well. And then I guess how you build a business in essence.
And is that knowing your worth aspect quite difficult? I think obviously when you come to selling yourself as a service, how do you know what your worth is? How do you base your value in terms of what you charge people, especially when you're starting out? I know I've had issues with that in my side projects of, is this the right amount of money to be charging someone? I'd be interested to hearing both your opinions on, do you do it for the love of it, or do you need to keep that financial kind of head screwed on a little bit to keep it sustainable?
I'll let Jack take that first. That'd be interesting.
I'll go first, and you can correct me on this, Ross. I think it's
not at all.
There's a lot of ways to look at it. I mean, it's very much at the end of the day, you've got to pay your bills and buy food and do all that. So it's got to come to a point, if you want to do this as a career, there's a certain threshold you've got to hit. But it's really, it's a balance. It's obviously you've got to make, first and foremost, your product's got to be good if you're selling it, and you've got to be if you're going to charge yourself at a certain rate, you've got to be able to deliver to that standard. But it's such an intangible industry, really. A lot of it's based. It's hard to define exactly what your skills are, and I think a lot of it's word of mouth and reputation. And it's one of those things, if you get on set and you're adding value, people look at you, they respect you. You can very much, I mean, there's rate guides out there. You can use BEC2, APA that kind of dictate what you should be getting when you get to a certain level in the industry. But all of a sudden, if you can, like the big film stars, they can command that higher rate because they've got that presence. They bring that much value to a project, really. So there's definitely, if you are starting out, kind of baseline rates you're going to want to be hitting, and that's a good thing for the industry, because if everyone knows that if you're hiring a videographer, you've got to be paying this kind of certain fee, all of a sudden people aren't going to be undercharged and that will cutting each other down and stuff. But it's really, I guess, in the day, bringing a value that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you're deserving of that rate, and that's not an easy one to get to, but you've got to just back yourself and feel confident in what you're delivering.
Yeah, I think Jack's last point there about just backing yourself, is something that people lack a lot. I sat down with a friend of mine who is an extremely talented drawer, and she was charging like £30 for these it was dot work drawing of like pet portraits. It was amazing work, and she was charging like £30, and I was like, okay, cool, right? Okay, let's have a little look at this from a business aspect. So, how long do these things take you? And she was like, well, okay, it probably takes me about 4 or 5 hours, like each drawing. I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'm like, no problem at all. And then like, how much is the paper and stuff? Oh, not much, etc., etc. And then I was like, okay, cool. So if I asked you to come clean my house for about £3 an hour, would you do that? And she was like, no way, I wouldn't work for that. Like, that's literally exactly what you're doing. Like, that's what it equated to. And you could see the penny drop and be like, oh yeah. And sometimes it's just understanding that business point and knowing your self-worth. And I mean, like, I think for anyone who is just starting, like absolute beginner, and there's a couple of strategies that you could use. One is you could just charge yourself out as like a minimum wage thing, or I generally say to people £100 a day. If you're starting out, because then it gives you an option to develop your portfolio before you start to get picked for work and that kind of thing. So it opens up opportunities for you to go to your local restaurant and offer, and ask for them services or family, friends, things like that, etc. Or I think, and all of this relates around portfolio as well. And I'm sure Jack will agree. Obviously, portfolio is the thing that really drives your price, because your work needs to speak for itself. So portfolio is very valuable. If you don't have a portfolio, it doesn't mean that you can't get work, but there's certain strategies. For instance, we would say to people who are doing like a swap strategy or a free of charge one, where you might film, I don't know, you might film for a massage therapist in return for some free massages. Okay. But
above board, can I just say, we're not asking for any illegal massages, just the normal ones, please.
Yeah, we could have chosen anything. I don't know why I thought massages. But you can do something to that effect, right? And then all of a sudden you can start to swap services, and then you're you're building up a portfolio. I mean, obviously that's very niche, but you could do this within fitness, within sports and sports teams and et cetera, et cetera. So there's things that people can do, but it's definitely tough starting out. I think that's the hardest thing. And I would have definitely have asked Jack, how much do you charge? Like, and most people are quite open. Like, I wouldn't have a problem if someone asked me that, or, I think most people don't hide those things that much. So I think just ask people that how much do you charge, and give you some kind of idea where you're at in regards to where they're at.
It's normally 2 to 3 massages for me as the normal rate for a day's work. Depends, editing extra.
So if I could ask you, who are your filmmaking idols? Who are the people that you look up to in your industry? Because I think that's always important to have those people that you aspire to, in a sense.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I don't know why. My brain just works at 1 million miles an hour. And I was thinking, I don't really think I have like any inspirations. And I was like, of course, like for me, it was a US company called Step Studios. And now they produce amazing commercial work for like the NFL, Oakley, major, like their work is phenomenal. But they started out as filmmakers in the ski industry. It was some of them, I think they were all professional actually. And then again, through injury, some of them started to start filmmaking. One of them created the business, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very similar story, but they always used to release ski films every year. And I would look up to them both in the sense of wanting to be that athlete, but also when I started filmmaking was like, oh my God, I felt like, yeah, they were just amazing, those guys. And to see what they've gone on to do, I'm like, wow, that would be cool. And trying to make that happen.
Can we have a little segment, Tim? Me and Ross can talk about our favourite ski filmers for the next 5 minutes. Step was up there with me. Michael Clark, Ross, fan of his work? Shot the Bobby Brown, that Under Armour famous one. What's it, the one run? Was that just me, Michael Clark?
Was it the top to bottom thing?
Yeah. That was always me.
That was really cool. Yeah. I'm so terrible with names as well. So when you said that, I had no idea. But then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know the film. So
Epic. I think it's the same though. It's like you watch the filmers that are making content you enjoy. I love Shane McFall's Travelling Circus. Is always my guy I looked up to and stuff. And like you say, it's the people. Same story with Stepped. I mean, they made amazing ski films, and like you say, they had film what they love, and they got better and better to the point they're making, like you say, phenomenal content and stuff. So it's really just looking at the guys who are that little bit ahead of you, kind of taking their stuff into your work and pushing forward.
So how do you really manage your creativity day to day? That sounds like a stupid question, but how do you manage those points where you really don't want to do anything, or you kind of get into that creative lull? Because I experience it sometimes where I just really don't feel like being creative, but for me it's a passion on the side. It doesn't really have much weight on my life, whereas you guys, obviously it is paying the bills. How do you manage yourself so that you aren't, you're on a consistent level with your creativity?
Do you want to go, Jack?
Over to you, Ross. No, go for it. You're ready to go.
I think I have a really strong internal dialogue. That's the voice inside your head, which actually came to light a few months back. That not everyone has this. So some people will be listening to this thinking, "That's crazy. What little voice inside your head?" Do you guys both have that, by the way? Like a voice inside your head that you can talk to yourself inside your head.
This is where we scare Ross. He's the only one that's got this voice. Definitely Ross.
Psychosis or Morgan Freeman is constantly narrating his life. It's one of the two options.
Do you guys generally not have that?
No, we do. We're just messing with you.
I just obviously, this is video, so I was like, oh, you do not. No, but some people don't. Some people don't, and I think that's crazy. But anyway. I literally have no idea where I was going with this with this whole thing.
Managing your creativity.
Oh, yeah. Then managing creative stuff. Yeah. So I honestly just literally sit myself down and I just say to myself, in more of a blunt and aggressive term, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Why are you not doing this? And you need to get on and do it. And I'll be pretty brutal to myself, because it's I'm only letting myself down. It's my business, it's my reputation, it's everything else. I need to sort this stuff out. There will be a tactic on the back of that as well. So then the other side will be like, right, okay, I am going to do this. Like, I'm going to set myself little goals and little targets. And also, like, I've got this little chart within order of like priorities and things as well. So then I just set myself one thing to do at that point in time to not get overwhelmed with the enormity of everything else, or just because I can't kind of be bothered. I'll set myself like one goal to achieve. And because I'm competitive generally, I will want to achieve that goal. And then when I do, then it's like I'm already on the ball to the second point, et cetera, et cetera. So I take quite a self-analytical approach, I guess, at just looking at myself and just being like, you know, sort this out, because it's not going to happen if you don't make it happen. Quite aggressive.
I was going to say that voice inside your head sounds like he's got a point to prove. He's not messing around. He's got a temper.
Yeah, it's so different to me. Like, generally, I'm like, oh, sorry.
I love it. I think there comes a point as well. I worked in a London agency for a few years, and there kind of comes a point where you, as videographers, we want to make every video we do the best, most creative, amazing thing. But just, I think it's like, I forget who the quote. I think it's a Casey Neistat quote: "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work." And there comes a point where, like, as much as you want to make every film the best, amazing, creative thing you've done, you're always going to try and do that. There comes a point, we've been in situations where you're shooting 5 days a week, sleeping 3-4 hours a night and stuff, and you've got to basically just wake up and make a great product. And it kind of comes a point where you've got to just suck it up and crack on with it. I think that's the point when you officially become a professional, when it's that point, like, you realise you're there to do a job, you're going to give all you can, regardless how much sleep you've got, regardless how inspired you are. That's the real thing. So not quite as fun and glamorous as Ross's answer, but yeah, I think there's a point where you've got to just get on and make it happen.
I think that's actually really cool, Jack, actually, that you just said that, because yeah, and actually something I think that's probably is worth talking about is the difference between being a professional filmmaker, photographer, creative, and not, and that change of, like, you know, I'm very fortunate that I love going to work every single day, every day that I get up. You know, yeah, some days, you know, a bit harder than others, but I love my work. I love talking about work. I just love everything about it. Like, and I'm sure to our parents' generation is like, wow, that's crazy. You can't have a job that you enjoy. What are you? Like, what's this? It's like, no, you definitely can. But there is that point, you know, and also it can get down on you creatively as well, because when you start out, you get to do all the things that you want. You ultimately, sometimes when you don't get paid much at the start, you get to create the things that you want to create. But as you move up that ladder, you get to do that less and less. And then you're there to do a job, and you're there to make the client happy, and you're there to do what is on the brief. Now, you can be creative. Like, I'm not saying that this is a creative drainer at all, but you can do that. But it is different, and it definitely is different. And, you know, you're talking about, you know, not getting much sleep and stuff. I have to be up at 5 a.m. And travel into London first thing tomorrow morning for like a 9-hour shoot all day. So I'll be back late as well. You know, amazing. Love my job. Love being there. It's going to be amazing. It's super, super cool. But there's lots of like things when you have those kind of things back to back, which does happen. It can be a bit like, oh, okay, cool. Like, just getting through this is going to be great. And I'll try and figure out what I've shot at the end of it, you know, and it's kind of a bit crazy. So I thought that was a really good point, Jack. How did you find that? So I feel like I'm not the interviewer. But
Job Hunter podcast hosted by Ross Welch.
Yeah, I'm taking over. How did you find that transition? Because obviously you started in exactly, you know, a similar way. Like, it was just fun. And now you have a proper career that's growing at some rate. So, like, how is that so different for you, and how have you dealt with that?
I think I'm probably a bit different. I went in, when I finished university, I went in-house at London Sports Agency, and all of a sudden, overnight, it was very much, it was you're here from 8 till 6 every day, you're doing this, your weekends are ours now, that kind of stuff. So it was very much forced upon me. But then, I mean, you go freelance, and your time's even less your own, to be honest. You're then up even later and stuff. So it's all, I think we're a bit guilty as filmmakers. I think the best part of our job is telling people you're a filmmaker. I don't know if you'd agree, because you get the reaction, but then we only post the good stuff and stuff, and there's lots of times behind the screen people don't see. And I don't know, because perspective was I don't know, because it was New Zealand and you were back here, and you was it a gradual, or was it? Sorry, Tim, feel free to ask some questions. Sorry, we're just diving in. And
I was going to touch on some of the stuff you've done with perspective, and obviously with Jamie Nichols and people like that in a bit. Before we get to that, Jack, I just wanted to ask you first, how do you row an ocean? And more specifically, why do you row an ocean?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
Yeah.
I didn't quite make the cut in that film, sadly. But no, we did a documentary with Kaz Lander, Meg Hoskin, and Eleanor Carey, 3 amazing women, novice rowers who rowed 63 days across the Pacific Ocean, breaking 2 world records in the process. For a little bit of context, I made a documentary on that. And they just did it. Essentially, like I say, they got up every day, they rode 3-hour shifts, slept 3 hours. And I think the biggest takeaway I got from the film was that you can achieve any goal if you take enough strokes. If you want to row across the ocean, you've got to put in enough oar strokes to get there. So that really inspired me with that film. I think it probably applies to filmmaking as well. Like if you want to make a production, you've got to plan it, you've got to shoot it, you've got to edit it, you've got to get it out there and stuff. So that was hugely inspiring for that. So I'd say that was, an incredible story and incredible privilege to film that as well.
What was the planning like? How did you plan for something like that? Because it obviously was over a number of days. It was something that was planned for years in advance. How did you organize the actual documentary itself for such a big project like that?
I'm incredibly fortunate that I'm secretly, if you from my university days, Tim, if you ever saw my room at university, that had a mind wall of post-it notes. I'm an incredible nerd and geek when it comes to organisation, and that's what my main role in the company now is, to organise and do that kind of stuff. But it's just planning. It's literally, there's processes you follow. There's documentaries are great because you get to go away, read, research a lot. You attack it with an idea. You write. I normally say for documentaries like that, you write 3 10-minute segments, you pick your opening link, your ending link, and you've got to get to that point for each one of them. And you work on that, you edit with the plan, and eventually you get somewhere that's got a finished film, really. So it's starting with a plan. You'll find probably about 75% of the way through you need to shoot half as much stuff again and crack on. So like I say, it's really just being organised, attacking it with the plan. That plan's probably going to change on day one, but you just roll with it and think on your feet, which is the same really, I guess, Ross, for every video project you do, isn't it? You start out with a brief and a plan from the first shot, that everything changes and you go with it. You go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that as well. Like you spend all this time planning, and then day one it rains, and you're like, oh, okay, let's skip the plan.
That's a skill. Sorry, Ross, a skill in itself, though, isn't it? Like as a videographer, I think. I'll let you finish. Sorry to cut, but like that's the skill is to be on set and to be able to deal with that sudden change.
Yeah, completely. I mean, our whole job is literally problem solving. Like, and that's the thing, and it is how quick you can problem solve, and that only comes through experience as well. And from my experience of employing people now, it's allowing them to take their own steps and make those mistakes. Obviously, you hope that it doesn't happen on your best client or anything like that. But there's a learning process. And as long as you learn from it, then that's completely fine in my eyes. It's if the same things come up time and time again. But I do think all filmmakers are actually pretty good at problem solving in general, because you have to do it, because you have to deliver on that project, and the client's not going to care whether it's raining outside or not. They want their sunset, shot of it going down over the beach or whatever, So you need to deliver. I think that's, very valid.
So, Ross, am I right in thinking you're one of the few people in the world that can follow a professional snowboarder, skier over a World Cup rated ski jump?
Yeah, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. Completely wrong. Sorry.
No, I'm not joking. I just really liked how that went into that question. It was very, very formal. Yes, completely right. Yeah. So, to my knowledge, I think there's only literally a couple of people in the world. So because of my background, I've skied over jumps all my life, and generally from 60 to 80, 90 foot, somewhere around that, and have to perform some tricks. So when I started filmmaking, I was like, whoa, hold on, like I can take a camera over here. Oh, wait, no one's doing this? Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, but I don't have to do any tricks. So in effect, all I have to do is just go straight over this jump and hold a camera. Like, yeah, I'm down for that. I started doing that. And again, I've always been super passionate about not being inside any kind of box and not being protective over my camera gear. And it's insured firstly, but secondly, it's there to be used. And your content is only going to look the same as everyone else's if you're just going to do the same thing. Like if you're not willing to take a few risks, obviously I appreciate that I've taken that to some lengths of extreme. But due to that, it's led us on some amazing projects, and we've got to, again, fly over the world, filming some projects specifically because of those kind of camera work stuff. And I actually talk to a lot of people about this now as well and say, you know, I'm always really intrigued to find out people's backgrounds because everyone has a really interesting story. And then it's like, as a filmmaker now, how can you leverage or utilize your existing background? Is there any skills that you've developed, like I did with skiing? You know, if you, I don't know, do trampolining or what, you know, they're transferable skills in all kinds of industries. And I think that's really cool. But I basically get to now follow athletes over large jumps with extremely expensive camera gear. And I've only crashed once. I'm sure that's where we're getting on to. Have you crashed? I've only crashed once. And it was on day number 2 of a 6-day shoot for a major car company. And luckily we brought a spare camera with us, but we just plowed the camera into the ground. I really got this so wrong as well. Like, we were filming on this jump and we had someone remotely operating the camera and we wanted to be a little bit closer. And I just, for a second, I just did not even think that if I'm closer to the jump, I'm not going to have enough speed. I just thought, oh yeah, sure, I'll just go closer. And then I was about, for anyone who skis or not, Jack will certainly know this, you know about a meter before you leave the edge of the takeoff that you're not going to make it, or that you've gone too far, or that you're perfect, but you don't know until that point and it's too late. And I was coming up this jump and I was like, yep, I'm not, and there's no way I'm even making it halfway. Like, I don't know what's happened here. And I literally hit the deck so hard and my camera I was like, hold onto the camera, and it just went. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I was just picking up all these little bits down this massive jump, which was, I hurt my ego probably a lot more than it did. I mean, it smashed up the camera survived, but it smashed up everything else. But there we go.
Have you got any impressive stories like Wile E. Coyote, Jack?
I can't believe I'm going to tell a story for Ross. I can't believe he hasn't told the story. We're together in Wales filming the bike project. You got the call. I remember this.
I was just going to say that. I wonder if Jack will remember that time.
Yeah, we got the call from one of our good friends to jump his red. It's one of the expensive reds, isn't it? Movi Pro.
Yeah.
I remember you getting off the phone and being am I going to do this? Or can I do this? And then went out to Lax and smashed it. Some of the best footage I've ever seen of Woodsy on the jump.
Mate, absolutely. So Jack and I were working on this project, which was super, super cool. And I got this phone call and basically saying like, it's for a major drinks company and basically saying like, we would like you as part of the team. Like, this is your only job basically. And I was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, cool. Like, let's go for it. But then I was saying to Jack, like, can I do this? Like, I'm in the UK at this point, so I'm not even on skis. Like, it's like, what's my practice time? Like, I'm being flown out to and being paid to do this one shot. Like, can I do it? And I've probably got about £110,000 worth of camera gear in my right hand as I go off a big jump, having never gone off a jump with something that heavy before. I mean, I was so nervous, like so scared, but the same as skiing, like, I think you just dig deep a bit and you're just like, come on, this is the time to step up. Let's do this.
Well, you were down like Hemel the next Friday, the Friday before, and you were like, right, I'm going the road in. I remember you texted me like, I've got this, don't worry, I've got this. And then come back a week later, it's beautiful footage.
This is amazing. I'm loving this, cool, mate. This brings back so many good memories. Yeah, so I went to Hemel Hempstead, like local ski slope, indoor snow centre. And just to put into comparison, I mean, the jump is probably about 2 meters at biggest. And we're now talking about going off a 20 to 22 meter jump. So I took my heavy camera down there and I thought I just wanted to get an understanding of how it worked in the air and like what kind of holding it to my side with the setup that they wanted, how would that feel and stuff. And again, like, Jack's the only person that I know that skis around on, skis at speed, with camera gear. So I really value Jack's opinion. Again, just having, love our industry. Our industry is so good for collaboration. So many other so many other industries are so competitive. And that's the one thing that I absolutely love. It fits my personality like perfectly. I feel like I can reach out to any filmmaker, no matter who they are, and just ask them some questions, and they'd be more than willing to help. And that's certainly something I found. And I feel grateful, because it's times like that where, Jesus, you just want an extra pair of eyes to be like, you'll be all right, or no, you won't be all right.
So Jack, what would you say makes a good film? If you were wanting to give some more advice to our new filmmakers out there, I'd love to give a bit of value to our listeners out there. What would you say, 3 things that you would say would make a good film if you're going to make one?
Should we all give one each? Would that be a nice collaborative way to do it?
Go on then, you start.
I'll do 3 then. We do say, that's a great question. 3 things that make a film horrible. Having a purpose, having a message, I'd say first and foremost, whatever that message is, and if it's a positive message that's going to help impact someone's life even better. Having an engaging story, I think a lot of things we forget. We're making videos for brands, things like that. They've got to have a reason to. You've got to learn something in that you didn't know at the start. It's got to follow a journey and get you somewhere and tell you some information, or captivate you and entertain you to keep you going. And beautiful images never hurt. And it's really trying to use. You can get beautiful images, but images with a purpose, images that tell some kind of story, and it's using storytelling devices, the lenses, the techniques, what you're showing, what you're not showing, lighting, etc. So a real combination of those 3. Any of those 3, we're going to help you get a good looking film, I would say.
I was going to say, Ross, do you agree?
So I'm taking the good ones, Ross. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries. Can I get you to repeat the question again? Because I might just go off of what
do you think makes a good film? What 3 things would you say integral to making a good film?
Sure thing. I was going to try and be funny and just be like, well, firstly, filming it, and then secondly, editing it, and then, but I won't do that. I think Jack is spot on. I think really telling a story, like, no matter what it is, like, it always needs to follow some kind of story. We are storytellers, like, and the challenge is doing that in under a minute now for most things. But getting those points across absolutely kind of helps with that. I think to get in a bit more of a detail side of things as well, I think being just try A/B test. There you go. I'm a huge fan on this. Like, try something. If it doesn't work, don't use it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not costing you money at all. Like, you can delete this stuff. So try it. Like, just be adventurous and do what you think works well. And you'll learn if it doesn't work well, and you'll learn better because you have tried it, and then you'll know for next time. So I think, like, be adventurous. And then, for anyone who's already been doing a little bit of filmmaking, I would always try and add some kind of sound effects, because it really brings a video to life. Whether it's just something small like some wind, or I don't know, whatever it might be, but some kind of dynamic sound really helps make a product or whatever come to life. So yeah. I think Jack did a great job at that.
So I kind of spearheaded that one. Apologies for that.
I think we all know that the creative arts can be quite an up and down industry based on a number of factors. What methods can you think of to help people become more financially stable? Sorry, I feel that's a really deep question, but it's an important one.
Good. Obviously, I guess from my experience, I mean, this is, I guess, literally what I'm doing with the academy at the moment is, training people to create stable businesses.
So before we get into that, what is the academy for people that might not know about it?
Sure. So I started the academy at the start of lockdown, effectively, and it is I hate the word online course, because online courses have like such a bad name, like get rich quick and all this. That's not what it is. Like. But it is a course that is online, and it's 15 hours worth of coaching. And I take I take people through everything you possibly need to know for the business side of filmmaking. There's so much amazing stuff on YouTube about learning about the creatives, how to use cameras, editing, things like that. There's not very many people talking about how to create a business and create a stable business, growing it to that next level. So I created this online course, and it comes as a whole platform. We give people documents to downloads. We have weekly Q&As as well. So I'm actively involved. It's not just like you buy this thing and then nothing happens. And on the side of this as well, I've also created free avenues. So we have a free Facebook group and a free, obviously like YouTube page where I post lots of content. But ultimately it's to help more people. And now when I started this, like I have such a sense of purpose. Like I honestly do now. And this is something I hadn't really experienced before, because although I loved creating videos for brands and stuff, I kind of loved that, but it sometimes doesn't feel that purposeful. Whereas helping people, that's something I didn't expect. I always wanted to run a course. 2 years ago, I tried to run a course and it just flopped, and lockdown came. I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But to actually see the life-changing effects it's having on people's businesses and things is amazing. I get, it's amazing to see. It fills me with purpose. So that's effectively what the Academy is. And then relating it back to your question, to create a stable income is so important. And now over lockdown and this whole period, there are so many opportunities. You may not think it, but there are so many, and people just need to go out there and gill it and understand where those opportunities lie and things. And one of the things that we do is put people onto retainers, which creates a stable business and a stable platform for us. So they pay us every month in return for some of our fees. So that's something that you can quite easily-ish do, but there's methods out there to help and things, and I won't bore you to death with it now. But that's a small thing I'd say.
I think Ross has really hit the head there. He's absolutely nailed it with that one. I think the only thing I can add is putting yourself in a financial position to be able to do. The example I think is we shot a big documentary this summer, and we pretty much lived off savings from like the start of lockdown until August. So we can make this documentary and invest our money into it. And it's just being that wise. And when you I appreciate with Ross, your own model is a lot more financially stable than the way we run. We tend to be very feast or famine, but then we live below our means and that kind of stuff to make sure that we can do the project we want to do and that kind of stuff. So it's really just either getting that stable kind of income, or if you're gonna do things. I know a lot of filmmakers. I know filmmakers that are throwing tens of thousands into their own projects. It's just making sure that you've put the savings aside. You've realised that okay, 6 months time, I'm still going to be able to pay myself the wage I want to and that kind of stuff. So just being it's very boring, financially savvy. What a very dull answer to end the question.
That's such a good point. It is literally like, if you want to run this like a business, then run it like a business, understand how much is coming in, how much is going out, what are your profit margins and those things. And then you'll have a stable business as well, regardless. I'd be interested to see, I don't know how you feel about this, Jack, like something that I kind of get frustrated with from my point at the moment in time is that filmmakers are so happy. We love equipment. We're all equipment geeks, right? The newest thing comes out, we want to buy it. It's thousands of pounds, but hey, it's going to make my work better and I can charge more money. But it's really a bit of like there is a level, but we're so quick to spend money on equipment because we think that's how we get more clients. That will make our work better. Whereas actually it's the business side of filmmaking. That's what's going to make you money. It's understanding how businesses work and operate. And I'm sure as a result, that's why Jack and I are here today, because we've understood the business aspect opposed to just solely the creative. One's not without the other, but a lot of people just focus on creative.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to both of you. I'm sure we could talk at length about films, about what we enjoy, everything like that. But sadly, we're kind of reaching the end of the show. So
Ross has got to get to bed. He's got that 5 a.m. start. He's got to get.
Yeah, I know that's going to be a killer in the morning. They never get easier.
All part of the fun, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So where can our listeners find you guys on socials?
You go, Jack.
At Jack WR Tompkins on Instagram. And Ross is at?
I'm at _Ross Welch.
Brilliant. I'll put some more information on our Facebook group to all the links where you can find out more about the Perspective Academy and some helpful other tips that you can get off the guys. I'm sure they can answer some questions on there as well. As I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to both of you today, and I look forward to seeing all of your ski and non-ski related content coming out, hopefully over Christmas, whatever. And yeah, it's just been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having us, mate. Honestly, yeah, it's been great. And Jack, it's been amazing to see you as well, mate. So I'm glad you're keeping well.
Good to see you too. I'll have to post-lockdown, get Hemel, and we'll catch up properly.
Once again, I want to say a massive thank you to Ross and Jack for kindly giving me their time on a busy work night. I hope everything went well with your 5 a.m. shoot, Ross. If you want to find out more about getting into filmmaking or how to run a successful production company, check out the Perspective Academy. All the links will be in our Job Hunter podcast support group. As always, you can find us at Job Hunter Pod on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or contact us at jobhunterpodcast@gmail.com. Right, now down to business. I need your help. If we can reach 100 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts by 2nd of December, I will select one lucky person to win a £20 Amazon voucher just in time for Christmas. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to me, I will give you an additional chance to win. It literally takes 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the show's visibility by getting us to the new and noteworthy section of Apple Podcasts. What's your excuse? There's 20 quid in it for you. I hope you've enjoyed this week's edition. Tune in same time next week for more stories on the Job Hunter podcast.